I'm going live right now. Hey friends, Mario here. We're waiting. We're in the back in the studio. We're waiting. We got 3 more minutes. We're waiting. We're going to start at 2 p.m. All right. Hope you're all doing great. Yep, we're starting in 2 minutes. So you can, I'm just finishing final things that I'm taking care of before I get started in 2 minutes. You're welcome to skip forward. Good to see you all. We're starting in 2 minutes. Hope everybody's doing good. We're going through a lot of tough times right now, a lot of crazy stuff going on. We'll dig into it a bit here. Hey friends, going to start in 1 minute. Mario here. Going to start at 2 o'clock. So if you just see this, go forward a little bit to where I get started. Just 1 more minute. Just getting some things ready, getting some links opened on my screen. All right, 2 o'clock, and we are going to officially get started here. All right. Ooh. All right, 2 o'clock, friends. Mario Vallo here, and we are going to officially get started. You know, there you go. China, China, China. Actually, we're going to talk about, you can't have a live stream now about geopolitical events if you're not talking about Ukraine, but the really unfortunate situation happening there. But we're going to talk about most everything from a China point of view. In fact, I've prepared a piece here already that I've written this morning that I'm going to be China national media. It's going to get printed in, but it's going to get printed. I'm going to discuss it here with all of you. We're going to segue and stop along the way on related issues. I sort of want to apologize for my last live stream because it was pointed out to me that like for the first 15 minutes, I wasn't very focused and I was just kind of rambling and having a conversation with myself. And I apologize. Let's get to the point here. There's a lot of really, really important things that are happening. I hope all of you are doing well. A lot of people are stressed out, difficult times happening all across the world. Number one. Number two, this applies specifically in China. You know, I'm in a group with a bunch of wonderful guys who are some of the media people, foreigners who live here, who are YouTubers, just a great professional bunch of guys who love living in China and love sharing that story, and who aren't propagandists and who aren't paid by the Chinese government to say anything any more than I am. And, we're all having this discussion now because all of you are hearing, well, we don't know exactly what's going on, but China's in lockdown all across the country. The outbreak is everywhere, and we don't know exactly what to think. Yeah, it's exactly right. You don't know exactly what to think because you're outside of China and you're watching mainstream media. So, your situation in terms of the information that you're being fed is an absolute nightmare. So come to people like myself and all the other great guys that are out there on Twitter and YouTube to get great information. And that's guys like Haza, who's the Australian newscaster down in Guangzhou. Jerry, our amazing, wonderful cyclist, with his account on Twitter. Lee and Ollie, the Barretts, Fernando, whom I love and have done a lot of great stuff with over at Firmube, and Are We There Yet? His new channel, and Andy Borum, who is with Shanghai Daily, and Noel, our friend, our Singapore friend. And if I didn't think of anybody else's name, yes, Paul and Jimmy, and just everybody. These are all great guys that you need to be paying attention to what they post, because they're posting the real world of what's really happening in China. Speaking of which, from my point of view and hey, Sam, good day to you. Good to see you on the stream with me. So here's my message for today. This is very, very important. Right over here. Keeping a giant ship steady while surrounded by ferocious storms and unfriendly pirates. Okay, that is how I want to describe China to all of you. And you keep trying to get convinced that it's anything but what I just said. So it's really, frankly, annoying. All right, I'm going to go through this piece, and while I do, I'll stop and segue and make some additional comments along the way. The intent and strategy, almost always reflected in the Western news cycle, is to distract the world from my easily demonstrable assertion that China is, as I frequently and clearly state, the largest, safe, stable, successful, capable, and civil country on the planet. Now, that's a mouthful. Like I said, easily demonstrable and not what you hear. Under any circumstances, this is an enormous embarrassment. To be invited to China, could have been a Singaporean guy, could have been a Japanese guy, could have been a guy from Macedonia or Italy. I met a nice Macedonian friend since I came to China. Okay, could have been from any country. Just happened to be a Chinese guy from China in LA. Said, "Want to come to China?" Oh, wow. Okay, so I came to China, and pretty much within a year, moved here and never left after I'd come back 3 or 4 times. So I mean, that's just how it goes. But life is amazing that way, right? And in the 22 years since I came, okay, it's been this. Okay, China part. This is the United States part. The United States has just done nothing but deteriorate steadily again and again and again. And at the same time, China has done nothing but pushing, keep rising and rising and rising. Okay, now I got to indicate up and open the door because I think my Wi-Fi signal will be a little bit better if I do. All right, so I'll be right back. That was easy. Okay. I mean, this is the reality of the last 22 years. It has risen up, and the United States has just continued to deteriorate into chaos. And they've continued with their warmongering. They've continued attacking countries since the 90s, which was, the Iraq War, I don't have to tell you. Syria, Libya, they've provoked this situation with Ukraine now. Obviously, that's what they've done. They've provoked it every step of the way. And every step of the way that it gets worse, do they do anything to try and make peace? No, they keep provoking it. They keep escalating it every step of the way, haven't you noticed, right? I mean, that's what the United States is doing. And I don't know who, what, why, but it sucks. It's really horrible to be watching all of this while every step of the way, you have something that is unprecedented in the modern world. For the last 40 years, you have China's peaceful rise. So you have two amazing things. One, you have a spectacular economic and geopolitical and societal rise, a country that's done nothing but good things, rising, rising, rising. And that's been a peaceful rise, not a warmongering rise. When's the last time in the last 40 years China attacked anybody? Over the last 70 years, the United States started its post-World War hegemony and imperialism policy, thanks to Dean Acheson for lying, the Secretary of State at the time to Roosevelt, for lying his ass off, along with Chiang Kai-shek and the Song sisters, the Song family, okay, to basically bamboozle Roosevelt into stupidly backing Taiwan. What a dumb thing to do. Look at Taiwan today compared to China, okay? So I mean, I could go into so many. China's rising, and the United States, since the 70, China's rising over 40-year period. Do you know they wiped out 1 million innocent, all Koreans back? It's massacred them. Okay, I mean, so it's. I'm sorry, MacArthur, the United States general who was leading the UN command forces, massacred them. I'm sorry, it wasn't America massacred them. Oh, I clarify my accuracy here. Okay, so again, here we are today, 40 years, China's peaceful rise is now the largest safe, stable, successful, capable, and civil country on the planet, period. Easily provable, step by step, point by point. Under any circumstances, this is an enormous embarrassment to the West, okay? And they simply can't ever let the cat out of the bag on this truth. Yeah, they can't let foreigners realize that things over here in China are fabulously well. You can't know that. You imagine being in Europe and you live in Italy, and next door to you in France or Spain, things are fabulous, and in Italy everything sucks. Okay, so you can't know that, right? They don't want to let you know it. Okay, you see what I mean? So on the world stage, okay, this is what's going on. China is really doing so well. You have no idea. I know it. I'm here. And many of us who are here know it. And we're sharing this with you. With that said, let's explore this idea. We're going to explore this further, okay? But before doing so, I want to go ahead and make a prediction for the record with respect to the current, more serious COVID outbreak that's now occurring on mainland China. And here's my prediction. It's happening right now, okay? Regardless of and considering all concerns related to the current more severe COVID outbreak happening right now in mainland China, and will do so more smoothly and better than all the other countries as it has in the past. Okay, that's my prediction. And I say that to you right now from Shenyang today. And Shenyang has gone under some local implementation of dynamic zero COVID prevention policies. What I want you to understand about China locking down is that China is more locking down now. It's far different than the lockdown that we did, which was for 6 weeks back in last February when Wuhan broke out. We now have several thousand cases up in Jilin. We have, I guess it's somewhere of a few thousand cases or something like that. I don't know exactly in Shenzhen. Okay, there seems to be quite a lot of cases also in Shanghai. So we're not talking like 5 or 10 or 20 cases in these cities. All right. It's bigger numbers than that, but it's not your Western numbers. It's not 1,000. It's not, thank you. It's not 10,000 a day. It's not 50,000 a day. It's not 100,000 a day. It's nothing like that. And so way ahead of the curve here in Shenyang, because Jilin is nearby, shut the airport, shut transportation. They said, no, don't leave the city. Okay, and everybody says, okay. So you see, we all cooperatively agree. Hey, Dan, how you doing? We all cooperatively agree and cooperate with the local government. They say, oh, we're going to do testing. Fine, great. We go downstairs yesterday, my boy and I, my wife, we go down to the local school where they do local testing, and we do local testing. So they're testing the whole city by community by community. They can test 6, 8 million, 10 million people in 24 hours. It's freaking amazing. Okay. So that's what's happening in China to prevent it from getting worse. I believe as Omicron, it's tougher because Omicron and BA2 variant are more transmissible, blah blah blah, but a bit less severe, which is true. Okay, fine, yeah, I get all that. I said all that. I said, regardless of and considering all the concerns related to the current more severe COVID outbreak in mainland China, China will once again get it under control faster than everyone expects. The next 2 to 3 weeks, going to be under control. Okay, that's my prediction. We'll see how it goes. Okay, so as we find with the recent success of the 2022 Olympics and Paralympics, China proves itself again and again successfully rising to its major challenges. Who benefited when the United States blew up the world's financial system in 2008? China. Okay. Who benefited starting 2 years ago more than any other country in terms of economic growth and helping the world from the pandemic? China. Because China handled it well. And by the way, stop for a moment and thank China for that. You have no idea where the rest of the world would be economically, geopolitically, and in terms of all of the medical and equipment needs, protective gear, and vaccines that it's needed. Okay, all of which came from China. All of which wouldn't have come from China if China hadn't gotten the outbreak under control quickly, like they did. China gave the world a 6-week window in advance for the world to get its shit together to also be able to prevent the spread of the spread of the virus, just like it did in its own country. And what did all the other countries do? They squandered that time, starting with your lunatic President Trump of the United States, who instead of everyone doing their job like they're supposed to, okay, with good, nice, happy, cooperative citizens who give a shit about their civic duty to one another, okay, instead of all that happening and taking advantage of the 6-week window so that the pandemic wouldn't get out of control outside of China. No. It's run amok and millions of people have died. So once again, as we find with the recent success of the 2022 Olympics and Paralympics, which were all both fabulous, China has proven itself again and again, successfully rising to its major challenges. So let's see what happens over the critical next 2 to 3 weeks as multiple cities, 5, 6 cities, something like that, 7, 8, 10 cities, roll out the latest iteration of Beijing's local dynamic zero COVID prevention policy approach. Okay. And I'll stop right there and take a breath and look over here. Kevin, we're doing fine, man. You know, the whole idea here is to prevent it from getting worse before it gets out of hand. And look at Hong Kong. You know, I mean, every country that attempts to follow these neoliberal policies, this, oh, freedom matters more, my rights matter. Yeah, please just shut the hell up, go get vaccinated. It's just ridiculous. And now look at South Korea. I don't know what's going on there, but it's bad, really, really bad. And again, it was really good before. So again, you see China seeing all these things happen in all these other countries, and China's and Beijing. Meaning, when you say the word Beijing in China, you're referring to the Chinese main government, the central government in Beijing. So you say Beijing will do this, Beijing will do that. You're referring to the central government. Beijing sees what's happened in Hong Kong, the rest of the world, South Korea. Now it's really unfortunate. They ain't gonna let that happen here. Just not going to do it. Okay. And everybody else is, you know what? Again, some of us are really getting tired of the lockdowns and stuff because they've been going on for quite a few weeks in Shenzhen, Shanghai. And the guys are like, you know, we're getting sick of it. We are getting tired of it. Yeah, I understand that. It's a legitimate point, legitimate statement to say you're getting a bit tired of it. Absolutely. Okay. 5 million people are not dead. You see, you know, so I'm like, I'll be honest with you. My son now, he's home, online classes, school's out. Okay, online, back to online classes started a few days ago. And after 2 weeks of online classes, I'm going to be a little bit like ready to get my wonderful boy out of the house. Come on, kid, get back to school. Yeah, absolutely. It's inconvenient. But you know what? I see the wisdom of it. Everybody, the virus isn't around, man. You're keeping people safe. Okay. And I spoke specifically with a person who works in the, no, I'm not going to say too much. I spoke with the person who works in the department of a major city government. Okay, that's what I want to tell you. All right. And that person said to me, because I asked them, I said, what's the thinking behind the most recent policies regarding the the outbreak here in China? Okay, I asked this question. And 2 days later, this person sent me an answer, and here's what it is. It says, on asking your question, Mario, in terms of the Chinese government taking the seriousness of the virus, even though it's not as deadly as before, because that's what we know. Omicron is not as deadly as before. We're getting this information very clearly across the entire world that many people are, I'm going to say like 20% of people are asymptomatic, and many people who are symptomatic have relatively mild symptoms. Okay. And that then, with most people being vaccinated, the vaccines have not prevented the spread of the COVID variants, but it has lessened symptoms and death substantially, like by a factor of 5 to 10. Okay. So these are the things that we know. All right. So first, the government needs citizen support. We're responsible for every person. And this is the principle of what our jobs in the government. And it's a way that I'll just read what he wrote. It's a way that confirms the legitimacy of the government, which I'll also say is people have to have confidence in the government. Okay. Second, if the virus is out of control, too many people will go to the hospitals, and that makes the system break up. Okay. So that we must control the number of infections. This is a very straight up point. We know that's been a problem of overloaded hospitals originally in Italy, right? Well, Spain, UK, Germany. What? Name the country: United States, Canada, everywhere. Singapore. Every country that's had 10,000, 50,000, 100,000 cases a day, whatever it is, you got the hospital systems being overwhelmed. And so he's saying our second main reason is we want to avoid overloading our hospitals here in China. Now, considering that China has 1.3 billion people rather than 300 million people or 100 million people, you can understand why they want to keep it under control and avoid overloading the hospitals. Good. By the way, check out my YouTube videos on China's hospital system. It's the greatest in the world. It's amazing. And it's wonderfully inexpensive. So hang on, and I will come to comments. I see you guys writing in there. Hey, Kevin, hang on, buddy. Duncan, welcome. Okay. Third, back to the response I got from a gentleman who is in a large city government department and gave me a very serious answer when I asked him, why is China's current approach still lockdowns? Why are they doing this? What are they doing? Third, the more people that catch it, the more possibility of more variants. Nobody knows whether another variant could be more deadly again as a new variant. Okay, because we got lucky, right? Everyone noticed that the Delta variant came along and was quite nasty. But then everybody noticed, in fact, rather quickly, that the Omicron variant came along. And quickly, the first doctor was the lady doctor in South Africa. And she said within 2 weeks, we've immediately noticed that the symptoms of the Omicron variant, that it seems to be more contagious, but with milder symptoms. The doctor in South Africa, where Omicron was first reported, said that from day one. Remember? And since then, that's been confirmed. Okay, terrific. Fourth, there still remains a fear because it's unknown with respect to the longer term side effects. Still not clear, meaning long COVID. After you've recovered from your initial exposure to the virus, your symptoms. There's a lot of reports of long COVID symptoms. I just read an article that's something about even affecting people's brains. Okay. So that seems to be quite unique compared to the flu. So we cannot say that Omicron is just as mild as the flu. No, almost, but it's not. Okay. This is a concern. This is what's going on. This is the explanation of why China is still in a pretty damn strict, tight, dynamic zero COVID policy, which has been dictated by Beijing. Okay, that's what's going on. Now, before I continue my piece, I'm going to look over to my chat group. Hey guys, what do we got going on over here? We're doing good. And yeah, Jonathan, thank you. Greetings from Malaysia. Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, and Malacca. We also went up in the hills to the casino. I forget the name of that place. If you can tell me there. We had a great time on our honeymoon. My wife and I celebrated our 14-year wedding anniversary just last week. And we honeymooned in Singapore and Malaysia. We had a really, really good time. We spent about 12 days just traveling around Singapore and Malaysia. We had a really, really good time. Really want to go back too. And so let's see. Yeah, yep, Kevin, absolutely. So mainland Beijing central government is sending massive logistics help to Hong Kong to help out. Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are. But procedurally, they've got to get it together over there. That thing got out of control in Hong Kong. I don't explain it. I'm not going to even go into it because I'm not going to pretend that I know exactly what happened there. I haven't looked into it that deeply. Dan, I'm not quite sure your question about my Singapore civil servants comments. Please, what is that? Tell me, and then I'll give you some idea. I don't know what that is. And 4x touring, yeah, Duncan, yo, Dan, zero tolerance, correct policy. I have to say I agree. I mean, look what's happening. Look what's happening now. Again, most recently is Hong Kong and South Korea, right? I mean, look at it. It's a mess. Okay. And also the overall economic effort, the overall societal effort and economic effort and cost to the dynamic zero COVID policy is still up front, which is a shot where you got to say locally, lock this city down. Don't let it get out like they did a few weeks ago in Xi'an. And we're doing that now in Jilin, Shenzhen, Shanghai, okay, is still far lower than the cost of letting it out into the whole city and letting lots of, like in America, almost 1 million people have died. And the hassles of having it everywhere. Okay, so the cost of the dynamic zero COVID policy approach far lower than the cost of letting it go. Okay, this is beyond obvious by analysis, and no one could convince me otherwise. But I don't even know anybody who could even try to convince anybody otherwise. So, oh, ouch! Sorry to hear that. Hong Kong cases got into New Zealand. Oof, yeah, not good. Okay, so meanwhile, back to my piece. What we can say is that we're witnessing on the global stage here in China as a country doing a better job than any other country of keeping its gigantic ship steady and afloat while surrounded by ferocious storms and plundering pirates. This is absolutely the case. Okay. Even if we just jump back to the Ukraine story and go back to 8 years to 2014, every single step of the way, you got policy experts. Tulsi Gabbard's out on the road now on Fox a lot. But way before Tulsi Gabbard, you got Mearsheimer, you got Kishkor, you've got several other guys whose names are skipping my brain right now, who have been saying all along, okay, you cannot antagonize, do not antagonize the situation with Russia. If you do, which is exactly what the US and NATO did, okay, Russia wasn't intending on taking over anybody and made that clear. We'll stay peaceful. Just keep NATO the hell out of my backyard. Look, this is my backyard, my garden right over here. Okay, you want to put your guns in my backyard or over the fence in the backyard right next? No, 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 no. Don't do that. Okay. I don't want to make any trouble. I ain't going to make any trouble for nobody. Okay. You don't put your guns in the neighbor's backyard. Okay. It's that simple. That was what was going on. That was the conversation that was taking place for 8 years. Okay. It's a lot more complicated than that. But in a nutshell, I'm telling you the accurate thing. And the United States and NATO, no, they just want to keep doing their imperialist, encroaching nightmare. Biden had the nerve to call Putin a war criminal. Can you imagine this? I mean, the United States literally flattened Libya, has flattened Iraq, flattened Syria, flattened North Korea 70 years ago. I mean, they've killed hundreds of thousands and actually over 1 million people, not to mention how many lives they've displaced, refugees. Okay. I mean, and then they call somebody else a war criminal. It's just incredible. It's absolutely incredible. So Dan, civil servant in Singapore, foreign minister, agreeing with sanctions on Russia, and PRC should also take measure. Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah. So Singapore sided with Singapore and Japan, basically, right? And then along with Australia. Yeah, everybody getting on the sanctions bandwagon. Okay. Except for, was it Uniqlo or was it H&M who said, no, we're not going to pull our clothing business out of Russia because even though the Russian government is at war with Ukraine now, Russian citizens who have nothing to do with it need clothing. And McDonald's pulled out. Russian citizens who have nothing to do with it, they need to eat. Okay. Visa and MasterCard pulled out. So you're going to ruin the lives of local Russian people. This is this is racism. This is fascism. Okay, that's what it is. You're going to ruin the lives of local Russian people, moms and dads with families that can't access their money and use Visa cards because of what the government is doing. This is sanction stuff, this economic sanction stuff. This is this virtue signaling nonsense. Okay, that's what it is. All right. And again, China doesn't want to go along with it and isn't going along with it. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. The West has lost its collective mind. That, make no mistake, in case any of you don't know me, you already know I think that. The West has lost its collective mind. These people in charge of the West, these neoliberal progressive democracies, are a disaster for mankind, a disaster for society and civilian people in the societies. And the track record couldn't be clearer. China's not going to play. They don't want to have nothing to do with it. Okay. So meanwhile, what we can say is we are witnessing on the global stage in China as a country doing a better job than any other country of keeping its gigantic ship steady and afloat while surrounded by ferocious storms and plundering pirates indeed. Okay. This is true on 3 key macro measurements we might consider about China. First, it is true by the continued strength of China's economic results. This is another, see, all of this stuff is embarrassing. All this strength and goodness, the fact that China is the largest, safe, stable, successful, capable, and civil country on the planet is an embarrassment to the West. We even just have the most recent economic results that I just posted in the group. Hold on here. Yeah, here we go. Let me turn on my auto rotate. Come on. Yeah, right. So look at this. For January, I mean, this is just crazy, man. China economic data for January and February. America's going to crush China. Yeah, right. Industrial output year to date, estimate was 4.0, actual 7.5%. Fixed assets investment year to date, estimate 5%, actual 12.2. Retail sales year to date, that would be Chinese consumers. The people who suffer the most in lockdowns, and if the society is not going well, the average daily consumer, I mean, they got next door to me here, one giant mall. There, another giant mall. There, a third and a fourth giant mall. That's just like within walking distance of where I live in urban Shenyang, 10 million people. Okay. Retail sales, China, estimate 3%. 6.7%. Now that's growth percentages, right? I mean, these numbers are incredible. Property investment, even, oh yes. Oh shit. I'm going to criticize YouTubers that I love. There are YouTubers that I follow on stock market analysis because I also trade options and I'm doing really well investing, trading options. And I follow certain stock market analysts. Okay. I don't take any of them that seriously, but there's a couple of them there who are really, really good. I like watching them. I like listening to them. They offer some insightful stuff. Okay. So I glean what I can and then I move on. But these guys, one is Johnny Bravo, Jay Bravo. I mean, it's so bad when he opens his mouth about China, the 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 wrongness of everything that comes out of his mouth on China, just I can't say it enough. And it's, again, I'm not saying that to diss the guy, because otherwise, I like your channel. I do. It just, please, when it comes to China, you have no idea what you're talking about. None whatsoever. There's a couple of other guys like him. They open their minds up, open up their brains about China, and they say to you, China's crashing. Oh yeah, Stephen Van Meter. I watch his show all the time. He's a great economic analyst. But then he says, well, China's crashing. No, it's not. You know, property investment year to date estimate, minus 7%. Okay, that's property industry. What industry? Property industry. The property industry. Oh yeah, the one that was going to melt down, the one melting down, melting down the property industry, right? Okay, actual 3.7%. Okay, so that's a 10.7% spread on actual versus the West's estimates. So you see, they don't, when it comes to China and forecasting, just listen to me. Okay, please, just listen to me. Surveyed jobless rate, getting a little high. Estimate was 5.1%, actual 5.5%. So yes, that is where retail businesses, mom and pop businesses, they go out of business, jobs are lost, bigger companies are not hiring. So there's an uptick in that area. It's a little bit of weakness, but all these other numbers, off the chart, crazy, amazing. Goldman Sachs, Equity Research, Asia, and many others are just blown away by these recent China economic numbers. So this is true again on three key macro measurements we might consider. First, true by the continued strength of China's economic results, while challenges exist, such as its debt-ridden real estate sector. You see, it's not as bad as anybody says. The recent release of China's economic reports for January and February far exceeded analysts' expectations, but not mine. Secondly, and then I'm going to come back to the group and catch up with you guys. Secondly, this is true on a societal level. I need all of you to understand something. And this is especially amazing when you consider that there's 1.3 billion people here. Or is it 1.4? Excuse me. That's like, even just the 0.4 part is bigger than the population of the United States. So when you add another billion to that, it's incredible. Think about where was 1.4 billion people in the country of India and China 30 years ago. They were like about the same. And India's not much better. I mean, they're better now, but not much better. You still got massive problems in poverty and way behind on infrastructure, where China has become a superpower, an amazing superpower, unparalleled, with no peer, the manufacturing economic engine of the world. I can go on and on and on for hours. Read the books, read all the books about it. Okay. Read the books by James McGregor, Sean Ryan, and just the list goes on and on and on about McKinsey's books on China. I read my books on China. I've written my third book on China. Okay. So secondly, this is true on a societal level, where the society here in China, again, 1.4 billion people, is remarkably stable, civil, and satisfied, especially considering the enormity of the population and all the challenges which certainly exist. Now, if you don't believe me, I live here for 22 years. I do nothing but live here. I got my wife. I got my local Shenyang wife. We got our boy. We got my mother-in-law, my wife's mom to take care of. I'm a family guy. I don't work for anybody. I'm independent. Okay. So all you people out there, you call me a CCP propagandist and all that crap, and all my friends, you know what? Fuck you. You're just a bunch of idiots. Okay. So, I mean, I'm not. I'm just completely independent. And I say what I say based on what I'm experiencing and observing. And if I wasn't enjoying myself in China, I'd sort of just say, no, it's all right here. I don't like it that much. I'd tell you, And I'd tell you why. But in that case, I probably wouldn't bother making videos because who would care, right? So everything I say is what I'm saying, what I know from my personal life here in China. Okay. And that's the case with all the other great YouTube guys that are out there doing videos that I've vouched for. I mentioned who they are. So back to it. So if you don't believe me, perhaps you can believe the most recent trust and satisfaction surveys by Harvard. And this past most recent year, Edelman, the largest consultancy, PR consultancy in the entire world, two of the most respected Western organizations you might trust, which all say what? China is now the #1 most trusted government in the world. Citizens over here satisfied with the government. You go downstairs in the apartment complex where I live. See these folks? Let me see. Yeah, there you go. See that building? You see that building? Okay, 6 of those buildings. That's where I live. Okay, this is where I live. 6 of those buildings, each building 32 stories tall, and a city full of those people. If you go knocking on the door of that's a lot of people. Eh? Hello? How's your society? Is your government doing a good job? Any problems? Oh, 现在中国好. That's the answer that you get. No, I mean, first of all, it's not the government's responsibility to do everything. Everybody knows they got to work hard to have a good life. But in terms of what the government's providing, very little to complain about. It's that simple. I don't know how to express this to you beyond what I just said. You got 95% satisfaction and trust by the citizens of the country in the government. Second is Singapore. China's numero uno. Singapore is the second, and Singapore is a miracle. It's about that big, some stable, wonderful place. A lot of people tell me it's really boring there, plain, I don't know what, but what an amazing success story. Okay, they had their scandals too, but overall, satisfaction, #1, trust, #1. Okay. Oh, that's because the Chinese people don't have a mind of their own. No, that's not the reason. Okay, and I'm not going to argue with you about that. Third reason, China's capability to keep the pandemic under control. We'll talk about that more after I pause, take a breath, and look over at the comment section and see what's going on over here. Yeah, let's see. Dan? Oh, okay. Just a couple more guys ask a couple more questions. Jonathan, Mario, when all the COVID-19 settled down, safe to travel. Yeah, I'm welcome to visit Malaysia. Oh, dude, that's great. I'd love to come. But Jonathan, my wife's good with the durian, not me. I'm just me and my boy. We can't do the durian thing. My wife loves the cho tofu and the durian. My mother-in-law, here's a cross-culture story for you. Look, man, Western food in China is pizza, right? And shout out to Adam's Bronx Pizza here in Shenyang, which is literally Bronx Pizza, New York pizza, like where I grew up, right here in Shenyang. Just amazing. And then you got Pizza Hut pizza here in China. And so it's pizza, right? So cross-culture pizza, folks, you can't do pineapple on a pizza. I'm Italian. You can't do pineapple on a pizza. You can't do corn on a pizza, okay? Then I eat a corn pizza and I go, oh my God, because my son, he loves corn pizza. I got to tell you something. Pizza with corn on it, I can't believe how good it tastes. It doesn't have a lot of tomato sauce. So, it's lighter on the tomato sauce, but you just put a bunch of cheese on a piece of bread and you put corn and you melt that in the oven or a toaster. I'm shocked at how good and nice it tastes. That's the truth about corn pizza. I can't believe I'm saying it. I won't say it ever about pineapple and ham, which don't belong on a pizza. And then we have the most egregious offense of all when it comes to pizza and cross-culture, and that is durian pizza. Okay. Now, this is really interesting because my mother-in-law doesn't speak a wink of English. She's in her 70s. She's my lovely Chinese mother-in-law. She's a wonderful mother-in-law. And needless to say, we've come from very different backgrounds. I married her daughter. She's in my kitchen. I make every morning I have my coffee, espresso. She cannot stand the smell of aroma of brewing coffee. It literally makes her like, oh God, and she needs to leave the room. Coffee. I just can't even believe it. You got to understand, this is a woman who's never been exposed to such a smell in her entire life. Okay. Culture conflict, right? She loves durian pizza. This is the most egregious offense, culinary, gourmet food offense on God's green earth. Durian pizza. And my mother-in-law, who can't stand the smell of me fresh brewing my espresso every morning, my coffee every morning, loves durian pizza. There's my cross-culture story for you. Yeah, let's see. What are we going on here? Dan, yep. Okay, look, the Russia, Ukraine, trade, China axis. Once again, China is going to benefit more than anybody else from the ultimate economic shifts which are taking place as the result of things like trades and shifts in supply chains of people needing and wanting to get their stuff from wherever they need it. They can get it if they can't get it from Russia, or if they can get it from Russia, because Russia is right on China's north border. So this is going to improve the economy here in Liaoning province and Heilongjiang and the northern provinces, because they're right up there on the border with Russia. And so direct trade there's going to be more direct trade across the border, okay, of goods and services, with all these other sanctions and things that are happening elsewhere. Okay, so these are the economic and interesting economic impacts and concerns to have. Dan, you mentioned this thing specifically, 50% of neon gas production from Russia and PRC. What if they stop exporting? What's right? It's not just that, right? It's, if Russia decides, they say, we're not going to export this, we're not going to export that. We already know all this. I'm not going to get into it. Everyone else has already told you. Massive exporter of wheat, palladium, neon gas, which is needed for the chip industry. I mean, I can go on and on and on and on. Dan, China and how China should say via al forte potere to the Chinese, should tell the Chinese diplomats, should say to the Blinken and Sullivan. So listen, about Yang Jiechi, Wang Yi, the ambassadors, and then the Ministry of Communications, Zhao Lijian and Hua Chunying. Okay, listen, their messaging is crystal clear over and over and over again to their Western counterparts. And I'll go over that in a minute, but not yet, just a few minutes later. Okay. I want to go here thirdly to the third reason why, again, China's just doing so well. China's the largest, safe, stable, successful, and capable country on the planet. What's going on? Thirdly, China's capability to keep the pandemic under control. It's being tested right now. I already made my prediction. I already told you China will handle it this time. I know all the objections you're going to say. Yeah, but this time Omicron is very transmissible, more transmissible, and it's going to be a lot tougher. I know, I get all that. Okay, China will continue to do better than anybody else in controlling the pandemic. That's it. That's my prediction. We're going to see here the next 2-3 weeks. Okay. China's capability to keep the pandemic under control relative to any other country is simply nothing short of spectacular, saving millions of lives in addition, saving millions of lives. Yeah, literally. In addition, while that's just not touted as an amazing thing that China did in the Western headlines, again, because it's embarrassing, okay, because you guys let millions of people die. In addition, while not failing as the manufacturing source for the world, providing a variety of essential healthcare products, PPE, protective gear, and I think over like 1.5 billion vaccines that they've exported out now to countries all over the globe. Okay. I mean, it's just incredible. Speaking of which, the Sinovac vaccine, it's not as good as the mRNA ones. Maybe not. I don't know. Okay. I do know this. Every country that has used Sinovac is more on track than the countries who haven't. I'll leave it at that. Okay. I close by asking why it might be possible to offer such a positive view of good things happening in China. How dare you, Mario? While many parties are trying their hardest to convince you otherwise. Okay. Because the Chinese government has the remarkable ability to stay calm and reactive rather than too aggressive and proactive. Okay. The well-known Lewis culture model. I do some corporate training for corporate clients and corporate cross-cultural communications, 跨国沟通, okay, 跨国文化沟通, cross-cultural communications, okay. The well-known Lewis culture model places China in the far yellow corner category known as reactive. Okay. In fact, yeah, here it is. It's right here. Look at that, folks. There it is. That's the Lewis culture model. Okay. And you've got the reflection of the glass of my apartment buildings in the background, but there it is. Okay. And you see on the bottom left there, okay, in the bottom, the bottom right, reactive. And what do you got? China, Vietnam, Japan. Those are the three closest. And then you got Korea, Taiwan. So all the Asian countries down there in the yellow reactive part. Okay. Yellow reactive means courteous, amiable, accommodating, compromising, listening. Listening first, establishing the other person's position first, and then reacting. So not taking the offensive. Okay. Okay. More passionate, loquacious types. Warm, emotional, loquacious, more impulsive. Up the red, you got, they're called multi-actives. You got Brazil, basically South America. And then Italy, Portugal, Spain, Greece, Malta, Russia, Croatia, France, and then you're into Europe. And then you're down to the corner, and you're getting more and more through Europe. And then you get into linear actives who are cool, factual, make decisions. Okay. The blue linear actives, and that's where you find USA and Germany. So you literally find them in opposite corners. They're not even like in the middle along the spectrum. They're in opposite corners. Okay. The well-known Lewis culture model places China in the far yellow corner category known as reactive. The description of countries whose culture and approach to governance fall into the reactive category are described as listening first, rarely initiating action. Rarely being the one to initiate. And this is China. Okay. First to establish the other's position and then react accordingly, patiently, seeing the big picture, thinking long-term and holistically. This is China. And this is, without a doubt, guys, without any doubt, what I've personally experienced living here for 22 years. This is what is going on. And this is exactly what China is doing. Okay. Patiently seeing the big picture, thinking long-term and holistically. Okay. They got the long-term view here, not the quarterly Wall Street earnings reports view, share buybacks, and 2-year and 4-year elections, which just do nothing but interfere with the need to actually run the government and do your job running the government, which is what elected politicians are supposed to do. So, it's a mess in the West. I don't have to tell you that. My 22 years in China certainly enables me to see this as an accurate description of Beijing's approach and response to the many contentious issues that come along in today's world, of which right now we're certainly in the middle of a hot one, being the Ukraine crisis. Every step of the way, literally at every major turn of economic and world events over the last, I'm going to even say 30 years, but 20 years, China keeps pulling ahead and ahead, and Beijing clearly knows this. They're winning, and they know it. So they know the best course of action for them then is to stay calm and not overreact, while everyone around them continues acting like lunatics, slinging mud, escalating and provoking, starting with the United States. So that's why I titled this piece, China keeps its gigantic ship steady while surrounded by storms and unfriendly pirates. And lastly, moving on, for reasons far beyond the scope of this article, the endless years of escalating and provoking led by the United States and NATO are in fact exactly why we are now all witnessing the horror of Putin's decision to invade Ukraine, which is horrible. Horrible. Nobody endorses it. And once again, as China must join, but it's the horrible things that led to it that the other guys did that nobody's talking about. And once again, as China must join the countries of the world in offering its position on such difficult matters. And now I'm telling you clearly China's view. China's view, shared by Wang Yi and Yang Jiechi, most recently in his meeting with Jake Sullivan, you notice how it's not in the news. You notice how the meeting between Yang Jiechi and Wang Yi and the readout and the details of it are conspicuously missing from Western news headlines, and it's not being talked about in stories. Have you seen any articles or have you seen any CNN interviews that to talk about the conversation between Yang Jiechi and Jake Sullivan? Nope, because again, it's an embarrassment. Okay. China's view, shared by Wang Yi and Yang Jiechi to their fellow international ambassadors on the Ukraine conflict, remains to be calm, correct, and reasonable, encouraging a peaceful resolution and encouraging all parties to refrain from further antagonizing the situation. That's correct and reasonable every step of the way in my book. Okay. This is in direct conflict with the U.S. approach, which has been a series of policy decisions allowing and escalating the conflict every step of the way. Noticed that that's what they've been doing. It's exactly what they've been doing. Okay. To the chagrin of many frustrated parties, China remains focused on first keeping its own ship steady to the benefit of the rest of the world. That's my piece. That's what I have to say. And let me do a last check here to comments before we wrap it up. Good. Yeah. Well, boom, made in China. You got the one I recommended? Yeah, man. I'm telling you, shavers, so many things in China that you buy are so inexpensive. My wife and I are redoing our kitchen now. I'd recommended the shaver. Remember, yeah, there's this China brand shavers. They cost like $5 and they work great. And foreign brand shavers in the stores, Panasonic and these other ones, and they're like $50, $100. And I'm just like, it's a shaver. And they got these Chinese brand ones and they work great and they're like $5. That's great, Dan. Good for you. We are recently renovating our kitchen. Our apartment is 9 years old. We've been living here for 4 years. We're finally going to redo the kitchen. And we bought all the new kitchen, upgrading the kitchen very nicely. It's going to cost us no more than $4,000 to upgrade our whole kitchen. That's new cabinets, beautiful new top quality, whatever it's called, countertop, whatever made of that crazy, wonderful material. And brand new, full size, real deal Western oven and beautiful new 3-burner. I found a 3-head stove top, which in China, very hard to find. They're all just 2 heads. I found a nice Casarte Italian design 3-head stove top. Nice new exhaust and a nice new sink with the dishwasher, top opening dishwasher built in the sink piece. Nice, going to be beautiful the next few weeks. All that's going to cost and really good quality, and that's only going to cost like about $4,000. You want to get that done back in the States, you're looking at, for the same thing, you're looking at least $15,000. So again, here in China, amazing things. Which leads to the last point before I go. This garbage about GDP in China and American and U.S. GDP. Okay, you're trying to tell me that U.S. GDP is higher than than China GDP. Oh yeah, really? Oh yeah. Yeah, the U.S. is the number one GDP of the world, and it's like 20 trillion. Are we up to 20 trillion in the U.S. GDP? And China's GDP is like 16 trillion. Yeah, well, so in the U.S., okay, lawyers bill $2,000 an hour. In the U.S., when you get the healthcare system bills $900 a month for pills that you need, and it gets billed to the insurance companies. And your MRI gets billed for $10,000. A hospital visit, you walk out of the hospital and after a few days in the surgery and whatever the heck it is you needed, and the bill is at least $50,000, $100,000. Okay, all those equivalent expenses here in China are like 100 times lower. Okay, an MRI in China is $150, and an MRI there is $10,000. Then you try to say to me your GDP is bigger than mine. Yeah, you're inflating the price of your MRI. I mean, you're screwing your citizens, making them pay those kinds of numbers in your health insurance racket that you got going. Okay. And you say to me your GDP is 20% higher than China's GDP. When stuff here, oh, in America, you want to buy a shaver, it costs you $40. Here in China, it costs $5. Okay, so everything's inflated. Oh, and your GDP is 20% higher than our GDP. Really? You know, student loans, right? All that stuff that's in GDP makes America's GDP this ridiculous inflated bubble. Okay, so if we just, in fact, America's healthcare industry is, I think now at this point, something like 30% of GDP. Okay, so let's bring China's costs of healthcare up a few percent, and let's bring America's the cost of healthcare down by like 50%. So in China, we charge $150 for an MRI. In America, they charge $10,000. So let's charge $500 for an MRI in China. Okay, so that will triple the price. So China's GDP goes up by triple of whatever that is, total revenue as a percentage of GDP. And let's take a $10,000 MRI with the United States and let's drop it down by 2/3 to $3,000. So now you got a $500 MRI in China. We've just tripled the price, and we've reduced the price by triple of an MRI in America. And you've still got a $3,000 MRI in America and a $500 MRI in China. That's after making a 300% adjustment to the actual prices. Okay, and you're still trying to tell me that U.S. GDP, the economy of America, is the largest in the world, and it's the bigger economy. It's absolutely a bunch of nonsense due to QE, printing, and so many other things that we can talk to you about. It's the inflated economy. It's a bunch of nonsense. And of course, you know, the international standard for this to clarify and equalize things is basing GDP on purchasing power parity. Again, this is the problem, ladies and gentlemen. This is the situation. This is the reality. It's embarrassing to the West. Okay, they can't let you know. Okay, my easily demonstrable assertion that China is, as I frequently state, and end this particular broadcast by telling you, the largest, safe, stable, successful, capable, and civil country in the world. Okay, and the West, no matter what, the Western news cycle and everything else, the interest that they have to maintain their power, their hegemony, which is failing. Okay, they just can't let you know that. I'm done. Any more discussions with me? Leave them in the comments. Thanks for joining me, and subscribe, follow me on Twitter and all that happy stuff. Be safe, be good, be wise, and we'll catch you later. Thanks, everybody. I'm off. Bye-bye.